Okay, let us come back to this wonderful chapter derivative. These are the features of forward contract. Out of this now, you have to identify that which are the advantages of forward contract and which are the disadvantages of forward contract. So first one is an advantage. First and the third one is an advantage because you can design the contract according to your requirement. You can design the contract. You want so many kgs at this price on this date, that you can do. Customization is possible. That's an advantage of the forward contract. It is a right as well as an obligation. So it is an advantage also and disadvantage also. Because of this, you have an unlimited liability. So it's an advantage because you can ask the other party to perform. But it is a disadvantage. The other parties can ask you to perform. So you can have unlimited profit, but you can also have unlimited losses. Usually no collateral is required. So this is a disadvantage. And the disadvantage, this point is linked with this, that the counterparty may default. The counterparty may default. Suppose, continuing with the example, a farmer had entered into a contract to sell wheat at rupees 10 per kg, and now the wheat price has gone down to 7 rupees per kg. Wheat price has gone down to 7 rupees per kg. He goes to the wholesaler. He asks the wholesaler, please buy wheat at 10 rupees per kg. I have brought 5 tons of wheat for you. The wholesaler may run away because wholesaler knows I have to buy this wheat for 10 rupees. Now the market price has crashed to 7 rupees. And because he has not given any collateral, the farmer will be at a loss. So this is the disadvantage. Forward contract generally ends with delivery. So here we will not write advantage or disadvantage. But this is a very serious disadvantage. Illiquid contract. Farmer goes to the wholesaler and says, I want to cancel this contract. Wholesaler will not agree, or there may be a huge penalty for that. Farmer says, I will transfer my rights to another farmer. He cannot do on his own. He cannot, farmer A cannot ask farmer B, you supply 5 tons of wheat to the wholesaler at 10 rupees. Because when the wholesaler and the farmer has entered into contract, they had a certain understanding of each other credit worthiness. The wholesaler may not know the farmer B, so he may not agree to that, and therefore it is illiquid. Unless the other party agrees, you cannot cancel the contract, you cannot transfer your rights and obligation to any other party. There is no secondary market. You have to deal with the same counterparty, and therefore the contract become illiquid. You can't get out of this contract. Even if you feel that, oh, this contract is going against me, but you can't get out of that contract unless the counterparty agrees to that. And then the counterparty, if you want to cancel the contract, he may charge you penalty, or he may ask you to pay him certain compensation. And then, as you know, if you enter into a forward contract, it is a right as well as an obligation. So this is also a serious disadvantage. So before you enter into forward contract, you have to know what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages, and accordingly you will take a position. To eliminate certain disadvantages like risk of default, illiquidity, no collateral required, what we have designed now, we have designed another version of forward contract that is future contract, which are standardized form of forward contract traded on the exchange. So now we have future contracts. Future contracts are standardized form of forward contract. They are traded on the exchange, and therefore first the risk of default is not there, because the exchange will act as a guarantor. Exchange will tell the buyer, don't worry, if you gain I will pay you. Exchange tell the seller, don't worry, in case if you gain I will pay you. So now the risk of counterparty default is not there. Illiquidity is not there, because on the exchange you can buy and sell anytime. You do not need to get the confirmation from the counterparty. You can buy in the morning future, and in case if you don't like it, you can sell in the evening. You can buy today, sell tomorrow. You buy today, sell after 5 weeks, sell today, buy after 5 weeks. So anytime you can reverse your contract, and you don't need anybody's permission. So that is why the contracts have become very liquid now under future contract. So let us see the meaning of future contract. Future contract is a financial security issued by an organized exchange. So it's a form of financial instrument issued by an organized exchange. Example of organized exchange in India: BSE, NSE, MCX, multi commodity exchange, issued by an organized exchange to buy or sell a commodity, security or currency at a predetermined future date at a price agreed upon today. Some part of the definition is similar to definition of forward contract: to buy or sell a specified quantity of a specified underlying at a specified price on a specified date. This agreed upon price is called future price. The price at which the parties enter into the contract to buy or sell is called future price. So they will specify certain things at the time of entering into the contract. What is the underlying? The underlying can be commodity, security, index, currency. Then they will decide the maturity date, they will decide the price, okay, they will decide the quantity also. So quantity, price, date, underlying will be decided, and the price is called future price. What are the two strong advantages of future contract which is not there in the forward contract? One is no counterparty default risk. No counterparty default risk, which is also printed below. And then liquidity. To remove the two serious drawbacks of forward contract, future contracts were introduced. To remove the drawbacks of forward contracts, future contracts were introduced. How will the exchange ensure that there is no counterparty default risk? Suppose this is the exchange. I will write exchange here. On one hand there is one Mr. A, future buyer. He has a right to buy at the predetermined price. On the other hand, there is a Mr. B, future seller. For every future buyer there must be some future seller also. You can't buy a thing unless somebody else sells it. So actually A and B are not contracting with each other. A and B may not know the existence also, may not know the identity of the other. You are dealing with the exchange. So Mr. A is entering into a contract with exchange. Exchange is entering into a contract with Mr. A. Mr. B is entering into a contract with Mr. B is entering into a contract with exchange, and exchange is entering into a contract with Mr. B. So Mr. A is actually buying from exchange, Mr. B is selling to the exchange, and exchange is telling both the parties, don't worry. Don't worry dear, come here. and if you are going to gain, we are certainly going to hand over your share of gain to you, don't worry. And because of this assurance, the parties come and contract through exchange, and that is why exchange or future contracts are very popular, because parties know even if I get a profit of 10 crore rupees, 50 crore rupees, I will get that profit into my bank account. How will exchange ensure that the parties honor their contract? Now here comes a concept of margin money. Margin. Exchange will ask both parties to bring first initial margin money. Initial margin, that we'll call initial margin. So that exchange will do the calculation how much margin is required, which is based on the past movement of the share price, the mean, average, and some other parameters that they use. So calculation of that initial margin is done by a software. We as a student right now, we don't have to compute that initial margin, but of course in some question we will do some basic calculation, not immediately, some more concept we need to develop, right? So exchange will take margin from A, exchange will take margin from B, and in case if Mr. A does not pay his share of loss, in case A loses and he does not pay, then his margin money will be used, or margin money will be used for making payment to Mr. B. Similarly, if B is losing but if he does not pay, then his initial margin money will be used to make payment to Mr. A. So exchange is also playing safe. It is taking margin money from both the parties, and they also ask them to bring more margin if the prices change. They also ask them to bring more margin if the prices change. So periodically they will keep asking them to bring more margin. If the prices are continuously falling, then exchange will ask Mr. B to bring more margin. If the prices are continuously rising, B is loser. If the price rises, B will have to bring more money. If the prices are falling, A will be required to bring more margin money. If the market price crashes so much that even initial margin money is not sufficient, then there is something called insurance fund, and out of that the exchange will make the payment to the winner. So winner is going to receive the money from the exchange. Even if that initial margin may not be sufficient, exchange is going to make payment to the winner, and that is why future are so popular. And then future contracts provides liquidity. How does it provide liquidity? Mr. A, any time if he has bought future, he can sell it. Just like I buy this pen, I don't like it, I can sell it. I bought shares. If you have done share trading, you buy the share on Monday. If you don't want, you can sell it Tuesday, next day, any day. So same thing, futures are being a financial instrument now, traded on the exchange. It can be bought and sold like any share, and if you have bought, you can sell it. Your position is called squared off, and now you no more have any other obligation. So what will happen, whatever is the difference between the price at which you bought future and the price at which you sold future, the difference between that is your profit or loss and will be handed over to you, or if it is loss, will be recovered from you, and your rights and obligation comes to an end. So liquidity is also there. You can buy and sell on the same day itself. Why tomorrow? Any time till the future matures, you can reverse your position. Reverse your position means if you have bought earlier, you can sell it. If you have sold earlier, you can buy it. Paragraph 10, features of future contract. First feature, they are traded on organized exchange. If they are not trading on organized exchange, then such contracts are called forward contracts. Organized exchanges in India are Bombay Stock Exchange, National Stock Exchange, and Multi Commodity Exchange MCX, Okay, then these are standardized form of forward contracts. Sir, what do you mean by standardized form of forward contract? Standardized form means most of the terms and conditions are fixed by the exchange. Most of the terms and conditions are fixed by the exchange. For example, the underlying. You cannot trade in anything that you want. They will give you a list of underlying. Like for example, you want to trade future for stocks. So in Bombay Stock Exchange, there are 4,600 or 4,800 stocks listed, somewhere around 5,000. But you can't enter into a future contract for all those 5,000 share. Only few hundred shares are available, and from that only you have to pick the one which you want to enter into a future contract. Similarly, commodity exchanges have only a limited number of commodities, around 150 or so, and within that only you have to select and enter. Then the maturity date, very important. You can't choose your maturity date. Maturity date is fixed by the exchange. Under maturity date, if you enter into future contract in India on any stock, there are 3 maturity date available. 3 maturity date only. Which are these 3 maturity dates? 1 month maturity, 2 months maturity, 3 months maturity. Even in 1 month maturity, the date is also fixed. What is the date of maturity? Last Thursday of the month. Last Thursday, future contracts mature. So you can't choose 15th August. You can't choose your birthday as a maturity date, right? And at the most you can enter into a future contract which will mature after 3 months. So once this expires, one future contract expires, then the exchange will open another future contract which you can enter into. So again the maximum maturity is 3 months. Then there are trading hours. Trading hours. Only during trading hours you can buy and sell. Then trading day. You can't trade on holidays, Sundays, Saturdays. There is a trading day. Then there is a lot size. You have to only buy and sell in lot sizes. You can't buy 329 shares of RIL, Reliance Industries. So if suppose in one lot there are 100 shares, then only you have to buy either one lot or 2 lots or 3 lots. So that means in multiple of 100 only you can buy. Then they have initial margin, maintenance margin. I will discuss about these two later. So as I said, in case of future contract there are margin requirements. I have written down few items which are standardized. Only what you have to choose. Out of this list of stocks or commodity available, which one you want to buy or sell, how many lots you want to buy or sell, and for which maturity you want to buy or sell. Which underlying, again choice of underlying will be out of the choices given by the exchange. Then lot size you can decide 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, and then the maturity 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, like this, right? Then the exchange will automatically calculate based on what you have chosen how much initial margin money you need to bring in, and once you pay that initial margin, then you have entered into a future contract. If you honor your contract by paying the margin, by paying your share of loss, your initial margin money will be returned back to you. Initial margin is like a deposit money. When you take a house on rent, the landlord asks you to pay some 30,000-40,000 rupees as deposit money, or 1 lakh rupees, depends on the house. And once you vacate that house, they give it back to you. But if you don't, if you vacate the house and if you've broken certain things, then what they do, from that margin they will deduct those charges and pay the remaining amount to you. So it works like that. This way the exchange also plays safe. Otherwise exchange would be the loser. So exchange takes margin from these parties. Futures are traded in lots. That means you have to buy or sell lots. One lot can have many units, like for example only one lot of Nifty has say 50 units. Similarly, for every stock there is a lot size. For every commodity there is a lot size. For currency there are lot sizes. So you have to deal in lot sizes. You can't buy 72 units, either 50 or 100, either one lot or two lots. So this is one drawback of the future contract. If I have to hedge, for example, the loss on 72 shares, but the lot size is 50 only, so either I have to hedge 50, so then in that case there will be under hedging, or I have to hedge 100, in that case it will be over hedging. So futures are traded in lots. Margin is required. This is to ensure that both parties honor their contract. To ensure both parties honor their contract, otherwise the one who is losing will run away. Then contracts are highly liquid. You can buy or sell anytime, of course during the working days, without the consent of any other party. So that makes future very popular. Even persons on the street, you see around you, when you walk on the street, there are so many people. Many of them are future traders. You may not be aware, because this future trading has become so simple. With some amount, as I said, you don't have to buy the whole share, you can just pay the margin. With some amount in your account, you can buy, and the moment the prices rise, and if you think you have made enough profit, you can sell and get out of it. So that is why futures are getting more and more popular. Why futures are even more popular? The reason number 2 is there is no counterparty risk. The counterparty is the exchange, or sometimes they write clearing house of the exchange. The party is the exchange or the clearing house of the exchange. They take margin from both the buyer and the seller, and if the buyer and seller don't honor, then their margin money is used to make the payment to other party. So like forward contract, this point is like forward contract. A future contract is a right as well as obligation. It is a right to demand performance. It is obligation to perform. Now suppose the wholesaler and the farmer had entered into a future contract. Suppose wholesaler and farmer had entered into a future contract on an exchange. Farmer has a right to deliver wheat at 10 rupees per kg. The wholesaler has to accept, and the farmer has an obligation to deliver wheat at 10 rupees per kg. He cannot run away, because the exchange would have taken enough margin from him. So because there is a right and obligation, it also means there is unlimited gain or unlimited loss potential. There is unlimited gain and unlimited loss potential. Because you have right and obligation, you are exposed to both. Unlimited gain. Suppose the wholesaler has entered into a contract to buy wheat at 10 rupees per kg after 3 months, and after 3 months the price of the wheat suppose rises to 100 because that year there is a total failure in the crop, no production. So price of the wheat can rise, nothing impossible about it. You have seen in front of you onion which sells at 4 rupees, 10 rupees per kg, its prices sometimes go to 150, 200 rupees per kg, more expensive than the apple, guava, mango. So prices can go to any level, and then the wholesaler make a huge profit. 90 rupees per kg is a huge profit, and if suppose the contract was for 5 tons, you can imagine. Same thing can happen also, the price of the wheat can fall to 1 rupee per kg also. Yes, it is possible. If there is a bumper production, every farmer produce much more, 5 times more than what they were expecting because of good climate, weather, rain. There is so much of supply now that the prices have crashed to 1 rupee, but the wholesaler is under an obligation to buy at 10 rupees per kg. 9 rupees per kg loss, and assuming that the lot was for 5 tons, multiply, huge loss will be there. So dear student, you also please listen to this. Trading in future contracts have become very easier now. If you have some money in your account, I am sure in the articleship you have accumulated huge amount of money, and those who are working in big firms, they get nowadays stipend which is more than what in many small firms CAs must be getting. So you also accumulate money and do some trade on future, you will get the better idea. But remember, be ready for losses also, because there can be losses, there can be unlimited losses. When you take a position, you know that this could be the my loss. So if you are willing to absorb those much of losses, then you enter into future contract. If you are a weak hearted person and who gets scared, then this is not the market for you. Okay, then you better do something else. Don't enter into future market. Now we'll take 1 or 2 more theory paragraphs, then the number crunching will start. What are the prerequisites of future contract? So when you will enter into future contract, what are the basic requirements? There must be an underlying asset. So simple, because you can't have a derivative unless there is an underlying. Underlying can be share, index, commodity, currency. Then there must be 2 parties, buyer and seller. Who can be a buyer or a seller? First of all, that parties must be competent to enter into contract, because you are entering into a contract. Future contract, forward contracts are contracts. So under the law of the land, there is a contract act which defines who are the parties who are eligible to enter into contract. Like there is an age requirement, solvency requirement, certain mental ability requirement, etc. And then one important thing which many students should know at this stage only, if you want to sell future, you don't need to own the underlying asset. The student will ask this question, I want to sell 10,000 shares of ITC company, but I don't have. How do I enter into a future contract to sell 10,000 shares of ITC? You can, you don't need to own the underlying. You are not entering into a transaction to sell the share. Now you are entering into a future contract. That means after 3 months I will sell 10,000 shares of ITC at this price. So there is no need to own the underlying asset when you are entering into a future contract, either as a buyer or as a seller. You are just taking a position on that stock. In fact, we can say you are just betting on the movement of the price of that stock. Point number 4, is there is a contract price or contract value. This is the price at which the contract will be entered into. And while calculating your profit or loss, I will take this as a base for calculating the profit or loss. Point number 5, expiry date. Future contracts have an expiry date. This is the date on or before which the contract must be settled. Otherwise, on the expiry date, your contract will be automatically settled, and whatever is the gain or loss, that either you will enjoy or you have to pay. But one thing about future is it is a liquid contract. You don't have to wait till the expiry date. Any time before the expiry date, you can reverse your position, you can square off your position, and then you can come out of that contract. How? If you had bought future, sell the future. I have bought this pen, treat this pen as a future. I don't want it. What will I do? I will sell it. If I have sold it, I will buy. In future market, you can sell first, buy later, buy, sell later. Both ways can be done. And then the exchange will treat as your contract is over. Now some basic illustration of future. Suppose the underlying is Satyam future. Underlying is future on a company's share called Satyam. You must have heard of this name. There was some fraud committed here by the chairman Ramalingam Raju. And how do the future contracts appear? There is a lot size. All these numbers are hypothetical. 600 shares, share price 200. So one contract will have a value of 1,20,000. One future contract will have a value of 1,20,000. And then based on the price, the average, the standard deviation and other risk parameters, the exchange will calculate the margin, which let us say is 15%, and then the margin amount to be paid is 18,000. It varies from stock to stock, commodity to commodity, depending upon the risk involved, depending upon how much volatile is that underlying. I have seen this margin will keep on moving very high also. So that was just an illustration. This is how the margin amount they will compute. Once you pay the margin, only then you can enter into the future contract. Now one important discussion is mode of settlement. How are future contracts settled? So there are three modes I have written: cash settlement, delivery based settlement, and settlement through counterposition. Which is more popular in India? The first and the third one. Cash settlement. Cash does not mean physical cash. All transactions are through bank account only. Cash settlement means the loser pays the difference. Okay, the loser pays the difference, the winner gets the difference. The loser pays the difference, the winner gets the difference in his account. There is no exchange of underlying. There is no exchange of underlying. So for that, let us first understand one example. There are two parties, A and B. A has entered into a contract to buy one share of Infosys at rupees 2,000. A has entered into a contract to buy one share of Infosys at rupees 2,000 after, let's say, 1 month. After 1 month, the example is printed. I will give you time to write. But first you only understand, A is the buyer of a future, B is the seller of the future. A has entered into a contract to buy one share of Infosys at 2,000 after 1 month. Quantity, underlying, rate, time, they have agreed. Now after 1 month what happens? After 1 month what happens? There are two possibilities. Let us say Infosys price rises to 2100 or Infosys price falls to 1900. How A and B will settle if it is a cash settlement? If the price rises to 2100, A is the winner. A has a right to buy one share at 2000 rupees. B has an obligation to sell one share at 2000 rupees. So A will ask B, I will give you a 2000, you give me a share. Instead of that, why don't we just settle the difference? So B says, yes, that's a good idea. You will give me 2000 rupees, I will give you the share, and then there are other hassles involved, like we need demat account, we have to pay STT, etc. And if it is a commodity, then there are storage cost, transportation cost, GST, etc. It is better we settle the difference in cash. So B will pay rupees 100 to A. B will pay 100 rupees to A because A was expecting price will rise. That is why he bought in the future market. And the price has gone up. His expectation was true. So B will pay him 100 rupees. A is happy. Otherwise, A will have to pay him 2000 rupees. B will give him one share which A will sell in the market at 2100 rupees. So ultimately, A will earn 100 rupees. But if the price goes down to 1900, now B will be happy. He will knock the door of A. Mr. A, come on, give me 2000 rupees. I'll give you a share. And A knows that now the price in the market is 1900 rupees. So if he buys the share at 2000, he will have to sell in the market at 1900 and suffer a loss. So A tells B, Mr. B, would you mind if I pay you 100 rupees difference in cash? So A will pay rupees 100 to B. B says, no, I don't mind. The market price of the share is 1900 rupees. So in any case, I could have bought the share at 1900 from the market and I would have delivered to you at 2000. That was my obligation towards you. So I would have made a profit of 100 rupees in any case. So you can give me 100 rupees. So this is simple. Instead of buying and selling the shares, just pay the difference. It's like a betting. Okay, let us forget this. A and B says, today Virat Kohli will score more than 100 runs. If A says, if Virat Kohli scores more than 100 runs, then for every extra run, you give me 5 rupees. And B says, if Virat Kohli scores less than 100 runs, for every run scored less than 100, A will pay to B 5 rupees. Now Virat Kohli scores 105 runs. So what will happen? B will pay to A 5 rupees into 5, because 5 runs scored above 100. Same thing is happening here. Anything above 2000, B will pay to A. Anything below 2000, A will pay to B. So it is called cash settlement. No exchange of underlying takes place. Only difference is paid. The loser will pay the difference to the gainer. If the buyer of the future contract is making profit, buyer of the future contract will be making profit if the price goes up. The seller of the future contract will be making profit if the price goes down. So now you have to write in your book example of cash settlement, 2 examples, and after this we are going to solve some question where the same example will appear. So write down example. In your notebook, if you write, it's okay. Chapter name, then mode of settlement of future contract. Modes of settlement of future contract. 1. Cash settlement. Example 1. A agrees to buy one share of Infosys from B. This chapter only works on common sense. Very simple, common sense. Many times people on the street, the tea vendor, the pan vendor, they are also able to understand future and they also enter. It is so popular. Just common sense. A enters into an agreement to buy one share of Infosys from B at rupees 2000. So why would you enter into a contract to buy something? Because you expect that the price of that thing is going to rise. And then if the price rises to rupees 2100 on settlement date, if the price rises to 2100 on settlement date, who is going to make profit here? A. A has a right to buy at 2000. Price of the share is 2100 now. So A is the winner. A's expectation was price will rise. When you are buying future, we say you are taking a long position in future. You are taking a long position because you expect price will rise. Price will rise and the price has gone up. You will make a profit of 100 rupees. B will pay difference to A. A will get a difference of 100. Example 2, write down. Same example, change the number. A agrees to buy one share of Infosys from B at rupees 2000. If the price falls to rupees 1900 on settlement date, B will get a difference of rupees 100. If the price falls to rupees 1900 on settlement date, if the price falls to 1900 on settlement date, B will get a difference of rupees 100. A was expecting price will go up. B was expecting price will fall, and that is why these two parties they enter into a contract. Like two friends, one is thinking Kohli will make more runs today, other is thinking no, he will make less runs today, and they enter into contract. So according to their level of information, the way they are processing the information, they may think that the price may either go up or the price may fall. So this time B is the winner because B's expectation was true. A was expecting price will rise, but the price has gone down. So he is the loser. A will pay difference of 100 rupees to B. No exchange of Infosys share will take place. And in practical world also, most of the future contracts are cash settled. There are very few delivery based settlement, very few. And this happens in some commodities. Only in few commodities delivery based settlement takes place. DBS. DBS means delivery based settlement takes place. But otherwise, most of the people would prefer cash settlement. It has the same effect. Delivery based settlement in commodities because you might require that commodity for your production purpose, consumption purpose. Then in that case, sometime you ask the counterparty through the exchange to provide delivery. But we as a student will have to only focus on how the profit or losses are calculated. But delivery based settlement is also possible in few cases. Now what is delivery based settlement? As the name suggests, one party will deliver the underlying asset and the other party will pay him the required amount of cash as agreed, required amount of money as agreed. So one party pays the price and the other party delivers the underlying at the contracted price. Delivery based settlement is usually happening in the commodity market in India, but also very limited transaction. So I was reading the news article somewhere, more than 97 or 98% of the future contracts are cash settled. Only some 2, 3, 4%, maybe I am little wrong here or there, but not that it is 60-40, just few percentage, 3-4%, 2-3-4% transactions are actually settled by way of delivery. Because as we have seen, it really does not matter whether you take delivery or cash. But in case of some commodities, people prefer delivery. It is because they may have some consumption production requirement. Let us take a delivery based example. Write down, A agrees to buy 1 kg of gold from B. A agrees to buy 1 kg of gold from B at rupees 28 lakh. At rupees 28 lakh. A agrees to buy 1 kg of B from 1 kg of gold from B at rupees 28 lakh. And the parties decide to deliver the underlying. What is the underlying here? Gold. And what is the cash to be paid? 28 lakh. So on settlement date, A pays rupees 28 lakh and B delivers 1 kg gold. On settlement day, A will pay 28 lakh and B delivers 1 kg gold. So this is called delivery based settlement. It can be share also. Suppose A agrees to buy 100 shares of Infosys from B at 2000. So B will deliver 100 shares to A will pay him 100 into 2000 rupees, that is 2 lakh. And then later they can sell in the market and earn the same amount of profit. So in delivery based settlement, it seems easy on the screen, but then there are a lot of legal and procedural formalities involved. For example, there will be a transportation cost involved in delivery. There will be a storage cost or warehousing cost. There would be some tax implication also, like GST, etc. So better you take money, go to the neighborhood shop and buy the gold. Third is, which we are going to discuss a lot in this chapter, and we need to understand that future contracts can be settled through counter position. You don't have to wait till maturity. You don't have to wait till maturity. You have entered into a contract on 1st January. Date of entering into the contract. I will write date of contract. Maturity date or expiry date. Let us say for easy understanding 31st March 2000 something. You have around 93 days. Example, any time before 31st March, you can enter into a counter position. Counter means reverse, opposite position, and therefore your contract will come to an end. Okay. If you have bought future, you sell it. If you have sold future, you buy it. Like for example, write down in your notebook, third example, third mode of settlement, write settlement through counter position. Please note, we have to understand the basics, then we can take the problems. Many of you are not exposed to the actual derivative world, as you have never entered into a contract in the stock market or derivative market. So therefore it lot depends on visualization. So we have to understand the concept. Write down the example, settlement through counter position. If you have bought Infosys future, you can sell Infosys future at any time before settlement date, at any time before maturity date or expiry date, at any time before maturity date. Or if you have sold Infosys future, you can buy Infosys future at any time before settlement date, The difference between both position will be gain or loss. This is printed. The difference between both the position will be gain or loss. So how do you compute gain or loss? Like in schools, buying rate, selling rate. the rate at which you bought and the rate at which you sold. Compare. So if the selling price is more than buying price, profit. If buying price is more than selling price, loss. So you bought Infosys future at 2000, sold next day at 2100, 100 rupees profit. You bought Infosys today at 2000, next day the price has gone down to 1800 rupees, you got scared, you sold it, loss of 200 rupees. So that is how the loss and gain are computed. But of course, no need to tell you, but still I will tell you, if you have bought Infosys future and if you have sold Reliance future, then it is not settlement through counterposition. Buying Reliance future and selling Infosys future means you have entered into a two future contract now. So you are exposed to risk in both. Then next thing, you have bought Infosys future of January maturity and you are selling Infosys future of March maturity. Again, it is not a settlement through counterposition, because January maturity Infosys future is different from March maturity Infosys future. You have bought two lots, you have sold one lot, only one lot is squared off, one lot is not yet squared off. So same quantity, same underlying, same maturity, if everything is same, then you are completely out of the future contract. Now we'll take a break.